What's up, guys? Welcome to the On Fire podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Donovan Jones, joined today by two of my brothers, Cody Truitt and Jayke with a Y. What's up, boys? How y'all doing?
I'm good.
How y'all feeling?
Oh.
All right, so we all these episodes that come out, there's probably going to be some variation of, there's 7 of us that are part of On Fire. You 3 that you're seeing today. And then we got Antoine, we got Jesse, we got Godbody, we got Charlie. And so all these episodes are going to be a little bit different. We don't know where the conversation is going to go, but you're always going to see at least a couple of us, hopefully. You might see a couple solo Jesse episodes, but as far as how this thing goes, y'all going to see different faces every time. But I think that's a good thing. Give a little different perspective each week. But in light of just coming out of the holiday season, so I want to put y'all on the spot. What's you guys' favorite holiday?
I'll let Cody take this one first. I'll let Cody go.
Man. So it used to be Halloween because I liked the aesthetics of the,
How do I kick him out?
No,
I'm just kidding.
I'd say it's more Christmas now because we have kids and it's a lot more fun to enjoy Christmas that way, especially with old traditions that we did as a kid, I did.
Did y'all keep any tradition that you had as a kid?
Well, one of the big traditions I had was my parents only got us 3 presents because Jesus received 3 gifts when he was born.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and so I want to try to keep that one, but my wife just like.
Yeah,
I kind of like that idea.
Yeah,
because we want to find a way that's like, as you guys know, my daughter's like 2.5 months old, so we're not totally sure what we want to do yet, but
yeah.
I want to find a way to bring it more towards Jesus and less towards Santa Claus. I was kind of one of those people that's like, let's just not teach her Santa, and she was like, we got to teach her Santa, and I was like, well, I don't know, we'll figure it out, but I kind of like that idea.
Well, my wife, I'm telling my kids that Santa's not real. But we want to take the Saint Nick concept. He gave gifts, and so we'll probably take them to give gifts to people. We don't know who it is, but it could be somebody random. But
That's kind of what she was like. She wanted to go the Saint Nick route rather than the Santa Claus route, which yeah, I'm just gonna have to do more research on it.
Yeah, I know a lot of church people are crazy with this Santa stuff. Like it's weird. Like my church, we have Christmas trees in the church, and I think some people would be tripping about that too, because they'd be like, "Why would you bring that in your church?"
They worship the Christmas tree.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. But I like that idea about the 3 gifts. But if I told my wife something like that, she's like, "Oh, 3, that's a good number. $300 per kid. We'll spend that on."
Oh, $300 gifts?
That's the route that she would take. I'm saying per kid. So we try to do a budget every year. So basically, we're buying Christmas gifts all year long. Because we got 4 kids, and so what we've been doing, we start in like July, and then we just start building up, because if not, then you're spending $2,000 in a month. And so that's one thing. Like, I want to share this real quick before Jayke, you talk about your holiday. So God's really been doing a lot recently, just in our life. And so, for instance, we had you have a lot of extra expenses around Christmas time, always, just because you're buying gifts. You have people coming over, you're buying extra food, things like that. And so my wife's tires, she needed to get her front 2 tires replaced, right? And I told her, I'm like, let's just use my truck until we are able to, like, after Christmas, buy 2 tires for your car. I'm like, I don't want you driving around town with 4 kids, and and there's possibility that the tires are going to blow or whatever, because they were going pretty bald. And so she called me the other day because our dishwasher messed up. This was Thursday. Seems like a lot of things, shout out to Antoine McGee, a lot of things happen on Thursdays. Like, that's like the day that God really shows up a lot of times in my life. So I've seen, like, my daughter was born on a Thursday. Sons of Thunder, we put that out on Thursdays. So it's just like a lot of things. There's a lot of other things that have happened on Thursdays. But anyway, so my wife was stressed out because of the tire situation, and then the dishwasher was messed up, and then our dryer started messing up. And so I was like, man, all these things stacked up, plus we're buying, $200, $300 we're spending every week extra buying gifts. And so I'm like, we're not hurting for money, but it's like, we don't have the money right now to pay for these things that are happening. So it's kind of piling up. So she called me and I was going through a dead zone. Jayke can talk about this because I tried to talk to him one day going through this same dead zone, and the phone kept cutting off. And so I was talking to my wife, and she was super stressed out. And then the phone cut off because I'm going through this dead zone. And so right then I was like, man, I just started thanking God. I was like, thank you that it doesn't matter where I'm at. You always hear me. Doesn't matter if I'm going through this dead zone. Like my phone can't get out right now to other people, but you can always hear me no matter where I am, no matter what's going on. There's never like a busy signal whenever I'm trying to call God. There's never a no signal. There's never a time where it goes straight to voicemail. Like you hear me wherever I'm at. So I just thank you for that. And now I'm asking you, like, I know that nothing is too big for you. So therefore, I know these things, these expenses are kind of piling up for us right now. But if there's some way that you can make something happen like today, to build like both mine and my wife's faith through this, I pray that you would allow it to happen. And then I get through this dead zone. It takes a minute for me to get through this specific area. And then my wife calls me back and she's like, my friend from church called me, or she called her friend from church and told her friend what was going on. Her friend was like, I'm going to come over for a little bit just to, talk about it. So her friend comes over here, and before she even comes in, she takes pictures of my wife's tires, sends them to her husband, and her husband texts me, and he's like, hey, we bought y'all 2 new tires. Take it up there at 4:00 tomorrow afternoon, and everything's paid for. Like we pay for all of it. And, in the past I would have been like, y'all don't need to do that. Like we'll figure it out. Don't do it. But I was just like, all I can say is thank you, because that's like a blessing. And then right after that, her mom called her, Kelly's mom called her and was like, hey, we have an extra dishwasher. You could come up there and trade out that dishwasher for y'all. And then her dad was able to come over and fix the dryer. So it was like these things that were stressing us out for a little bit, like in a 5-hour period, God was just like, it's, you only got nothing to stress about now. And what it's really showed me through that, and then there was a couple of weeks ago where me and my wife were praying. I shared it on my Instagram before, but how we were praying, and I asked her, do you want me to pray for you to get some more extra crochet sales before Christmas? And she's like, yeah, if you want to. And so I asked the Lord, and then after I fell asleep, 20 minutes later, she got a $400 order. And what it's really showed me that is like God can only work in the amount of belief that we have. And I think there's a lot of churches that don't see their prayers answered, and there's a lot of people that don't see their prayer answered because when they're praying, they have one person, just one person can make that difference to where there's not complete and total belief in the room. You know what I'm saying? Like when me and my wife were praying and it was just me and her, there was complete belief that we know God can do something in this situation, and then God did it. But like if there's even just a little bit of unbelief, God can't work inside of that. And so like for like anybody that's listening to this, I know I'm kind of rambling at this point, but like kind of if you can push out any kind of unbelief in your life or people that are around you that are unbelievers, not to say you shouldn't be friends with them or disassociate, but like if there's a space that you need something for God to work supernaturally, don't bring them into that situation, because God can't work through somebody's disbelief. And but anyway, that was kind of my little soapbox. But Jayke, so favorite holiday?
I mean, technically my favorite holiday is 4th of July, but I don't know. As I've gotten older, it's kind of changed to Thanksgiving because I mean it's kind of like Christmas, but without all the pressure of Christmas, I guess. But I don't really want to speak on that, man. Actually, what you were just talking about that ties directly into what I was telling you guys about before the pod on like, as I guess Donovan knows this, but my wife got in a car accident yesterday, and
Oh,
not like anything serious, but it was a hit and run kind of deal. Somebody sideswiped her, and she was so worried about our baby in the back seat, she didn't even see what color the car was or the plate number because that's all she could think about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she comes home all stressed out on it, obviously, but since we didn't get their information, we didn't have any information on what the car looked like, who it was. We called insurance, and they're like, "You're gonna have to pay $500 to get the car fixed." And like, this is on top of me. I get paid off commission, so in the Christmas time, those businesses I go to, they're not open, so I don't make money
Mm-hmm.
in the Christmas time, right? So we were already low on money, and I should have started with this. So 3-4 days ago, my mom texted me, and she was like, "Hey, my sister Brenda, so my aunt, wants to know, do you guys need help with anything financially?" And at the time I was like, no, not really. Like we're fine right now. Um, but we called my mom, we told her what happened. And then literally like 20-30 minutes later, my aunt texts me and she's like, hey, how much do you guys owe on that deductible?
Mm.
And I'll be honest with you, I hadn't even got to the point where it was so fast. It was like, I didn't even ask God for help yet. It was just kind of like, he didn't even need me to ask. It was it was crazy. He provided it so fast, and it was like I had this calming sense of like it's gonna get taken care of. I wasn't too stressed about it, but for him to work so fast, and like she literally already sent me the money, and we're going to get the car fixed next week. And that's just an example of like God helps you when you ask, but sometimes you don't even have to ask, man. If you just trust him, you don't even have to ask. Sometimes he'll provide for you when you're not even thinking about it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just, I want to give him thanks for that, because that $500 would have hurt right now. So um, just shout out to God for that. Shout out to my aunt. So that's what I wanted to share.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, it's crazy. Scripture talks about that a lot. How it's like our Heavenly Father already knows what we need before we even ask Him for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's such an example of that. And I think a lot of people, I was thinking about this yesterday because like a lot of times I'll pray and ask God for specific things or whatever. And I'll think, well, he shouldn't answer me about this because I haven't been doing the right thing. Like I've not been following him the way that I should be. And I was thinking about like when we take our kids to Disney World, right? So like if they did something bad while we're there, we're not just going to cancel the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Like we're still going to go ride the rides. We're still going to have a good time. It's like, it's almost like that same way with God. Like just because we do something that we know we're not supposed to do, it doesn't mean he's like canceled his plans for us. It doesn't mean he's taking back the things that he has for us, the blessings that he has for us down the road. It doesn't mean that we should just keep sinning and living in sin, but like he has that grace for us. So like we have to show grace for ourselves as far as that goes. But
Yeah. And I was like, so when I first really dedicated my life back to God and decided to switch over to Christian music, I remember I used to do this thing to myself. I was telling myself that if I didn't read my Bible every single day, God wouldn't bless me. He
mm-hmm,
wouldn't bless my music. He wouldn't do this. And I was so like, I had already given up smoking weed. I had already given up all that stuff I was doing in the past, pornography, all that stuff. But in my head, I was like, if I don't read my Bible, I'm not going to be able to get what God has for me. And it kind of ties back into what you're saying now is like, yes, he wants us to get into our Bible and read the word and connect with him. But if we miss a day, it doesn't mean he's going to punish us, you know?
right.
And that's literally how I used to think. And it would hold me back to the point where I was punishing myself,
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, oh, well, I can't work on music today. God's not going to speak through it because I didn't read my Bible yesterday. You know, it goes back to showing yourself grace in those situations.
Yeah. Showing yourself grace, and too, that means you're like taking the ownership of the things that you're doing instead of like letting God work through it. You know what I'm saying? Because like
Hmm.
that's what I feel too sometimes. And I'm like, wait, what am I doing? Because if I truly am meaning what I say when I say that everything I'm doing is for God, then I can't take ownership of this stuff. Like I can't say, well, this is going good because I'm doing the things that God tells me to do, or wait, this is not going the way I want it to. It's because I'm doing. No, it's like God is the one that makes these things happen. And also, Cody might be kind of in and out right now. He's shout out to Cody and his baby. I don't know which baby he has. I don't know if it's an older daughter or his younger, but I know he's babysitting right now too. So we'll have to keep that in mind as we're moving forward here. So he might have to hop
Yeah.
off in a minute, but anyway, yeah, there was one other little scripture I wanted to share real quick, and we can kind of talk about whatever either of you two want to talk about. And it's just because, so when this comes out, obviously we're pre-recording a lot of these episodes, so a lot of the stuff that we're talking about right now might be a couple months old. But I had the opportunity to speak at my church, and one of the times that I spoke twice, 2 Wednesdays in a row. And the first time that I spoke, I brought up a story involving going to a Hovey concert. Obviously, Hovey is a Christian rapper, and when I said rap music, I could tell several of the people's faces kind of changed in there. And so I was talking to my pastor about it afterwards, and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to do this full time, like ministry full time. So like, can you give me some critique, like honest critique? I respect your opinion. I trust in what you're telling me. I know you're not trying to just break me down or whatever. I was like, but do not worry about like my feelings at all. It's not going to hurt my feelings. Whatever you tell me, you know what I'm saying? Because I know this was the first time I ever spoke in a church. And so he told one of the things that he said. It was only like two or three things that he said, but one of the things that he said was sometimes depending on where you're at, you might not want to mention rap music. And he was like, I don't have any issue with it. He was like, that's not something that I'm worried about. He said, I'm just telling you for future reference because you don't want people to miss the moral of the story, because the story that you have is great and like it pointed to God and it shows that God opens doors, but you don't want people to miss out on the story just because they're hung up on the word rap music. And I was thinking about that yesterday a lot, and I was praying about it. And I'm like, I get it, and I respect what he's saying, and I understand where he's coming from. But that's me downplaying my testimony. That's me taking out part of the story that God allowed something to happen in that space. And there's a passage in Luke chapter 3, verse 12, and it says, tax collectors came to be baptized, and they asked John, teacher, what shall we do? And he said to them, well, I'm sorry, let me back up. Both tax collectors and soldiers came and asked John the Baptist, like, what are we supposed to do? And John tells them, collect no more than you are authorized to do. Soldiers also asked him, what shall we do? And he said to them, do not extort money from anyone by threats or by false accusations, and be content with your wages. So like a lot of people would have probably thought, as a tax collector or as a soldier, if they came and asked John, what are we supposed to do? You would have thought that he said, go find a different job. You know what I'm saying? Like, be a pastor or be this or that. But he told them to go back where they were and be good, like redeem what they were doing. So like, that's what you're doing with your music. And I feel like that's what God's going to allow us to do with On Fire, with content in general, is redeeming these things. Like, don't just push it to the side and say God can't be used inside of it, but redeem it, make it for his honor and for his good. And that's what I feel like that story does about rap music. Not only does it show people God can put you in any space that he just saw fit for you to be put there, but it's like, that wouldn't have happened had it not been for rap music. I wouldn't have been there had it not been for that. You know what I'm saying? That whole testimony wouldn't have happened had it not been for that specific type of music, because I'm a fan of that music. So I'm not going to apologize for that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to take out that part of the testimony, because God works so mightily in that spot. And I just think that a lot of Christians play the role of Satan in that way, to where they try to steal your testimony away. The things that God has allowed you to do through whatever space, like Christians are so easily like pushing that to the side, because saying that can't be of God because that's whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the way I see it is, I mean, you got to be able to be willing to go out there and reach new people. And that's what I think rap music, Christian rap music is trying to do, is get those people who are listening to money about, or listening to songs about money and drugs and women, and give them a positive outlet in order to channel that. Because to me, that's just a different form of worship.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just because somebody doesn't listen to worship music doesn't mean they're not worshiping the same way you are. But I think, like you said, we have to be careful of that, because, I mean, God wants us to, I don't know. I can only speak from a musical perspective, really, but you
Right.
talk about all these different forms of media. There's going to be people out there who have a problem with everything.
Exactly.
But if we know that God has told us what our purpose is, what our plan is, we shouldn't care about that. Like, it should not be. And I say I'm talking to myself, because there's times where I'll have someone say something to me. Because, like I told you guys earlier, trying to make Christian rap, you're almost ostracized by two different communities, because secular rap sees you as a certain kind of way, like you're corny, this dude's lame. And then Christians, not all Christians, there are obviously people who like Christian rap, but a lot of like the mainstream Christians just see you as, like, they hear a sound and they don't like it. It could be the same for like rock music, metal music, and they just decide before they even listen to your words and what you have to say, they've already decided that they don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And taking that and putting that back into what you do, I mean, maybe it's God's purpose for you to reach that crowd that does like that. You know what I mean? And I kind of see it as like, if somebody doesn't like what you're doing, then they're not meant to listen to you. They're not, because the people that are meant to listen to you are going to receive what you have to say, and they're going to think it's so profound. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I see stuff like that, and I want to get angry at it sometimes, but at the same time, it's just like, God told us this was going to happen. You know,
Right. Yeah.
he tells us this was all going to happen. So
With that too, and not if your voice or my voice or Cody's voice or Jesse's or whoever in the group, like each of us individually and whoever's listening to this, like your voice can resonate with somebody that none of our voices will be able to resonate with. And so like, you're not going to be accepted in every space, but you're not, your voice could never reach that person because somebody else's voice, you know what I'm saying, was There he is. Was what's the way I'm trying to word it? Like, that's not your person to reach. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that, your voice is not supposed to reach that person. It's for somebody else. And so that's just the beautiful thing about God, though, too, is like, he allows everybody to voice to reach somebody. You know what I'm saying? And so,
That's what's beautiful about the group too, is you got our ages range from what, 17 to 35.
I
We
think
all
Antoine's 42.
we all look different, we all talk a little different, we all have different backgrounds, we all have different testimonies, and that's what's great about, like, you put everybody together and somebody approaches somebody and they might say, "Oh, I can't relate to you on that level, but I know this
Mm-hmm.
person who can," and then they
Right.
send you to this person. And I think that's what's great about it.
Definitely. What do you got, Cody? You got anything going on?
Do what?
You got anything you want to say?
Yeah. I've got some pretty good interviews lined up for the podcast. Speaking of using our voice to, you know, not specifically, but yeah, and I go back and forth with it because over the years um, I've slacked so much on the podcast, and we've talked about this a little bit, how I feel guilty because I haven't put as much effort as I feel as though I should into it, and so I'm definitely trying to stay committed to it this time around. But I've got stuff that I'm recording now so that I can have one weekly come out
Yeah.
for the next few months. So.
Look, I want to say this too real quick, because we talked about it before we started recording. You did something that really convicted me one day earlier this week, that you put this post up about, it's a picture of, I think is it you in the photo holding the phone?
Yeah.
Okay. So you took a picture holding the phone, and you're like, this is what your kid sees when you're looking at the phone when they're trying to come up and talk to you. So like, you really convicted me about that, because that's something that I don't want my kids to grow up and say, well, when I think of my dad, I just think of, he had the phone in my face all the time. Every time I was trying to talk to him, all I saw was, the back of his phone. So like,
Yes.
what was there a story that made you make that post?
Yeah. I've always had, kind of an issue with the phone. And I think about it often, but the day before that post that I made, uh, I was just kind of sitting there on my phone, and my daughter came up to me and tapped me and wanted my attention for something. And, uh, hold on. And she did it again, and then she ended up walking away, and wasn't interested in that whatever she was trying to do anymore, and it just kind of hit me. That's the moment's gone, missed it. So
Mm-hmm.
heavy.
It is.
But the ability to be self-aware about that, though, is, I think, a positive you can take from that, because I think a lot of people might not even realize what that situation means to a kid, I guess. So the fact that you can step back from it and, use it in a positive way, I think is good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. As long as you do something with it after.
Yeah.
Because like,
Right.
we can be self-aware, but it's like, yeah, I realize I'm doing this, but I also realized I was doing this 6 months ago, and I was doing
Mm-hmm.
this a year ago, and I was doing this 5 years ago. That's something that, I looked at my journal, because I always made fun of people that journaled. So I'm like, you got a diary, that kind of thing. But a couple years ago, I guess it was like December 2021, I asked my wife to get me a journal for Christmas, because there was a lot of things that I was hearing and a lot of things that I was seeing that I wanted to write down and to remember, because I have a horrible memory. And so I just started writing stuff down, and that was she bought it for me on Christmas, and I didn't even realize that I was taking notes for future podcast episodes. And at that time, I didn't even plan on starting a podcast. You know what I'm saying? But like, God just was like, you need to start writing stuff down, and that led to a lot of stuff that I've talked about just came from things that I saw as I was, just writing stuff down just for myself. And then it's resonated with some people, you know what I mean? But it's like, I looked back at one of those the other day, the first one that I did. And one of the things, I wrote down my goals for 2023. And one of my goals was not be on my phone as much, you know? And then I read it back the other night, and I was like, if I asked my kids, because it doesn't matter what I think, if I asked my kids and I asked my wife, hey, do y'all think that I've been better about not being on the phone? What would they say? Because
Yeah.
I could personally think, well, I'm doing better at this, but then I asked them, and they're like, all we ever see you is on the phone, you know. And so yeah, that convicted me when you said that, because that is something that I try to work on. And it is hard, as doing what we're doing. Like, our ministry right now is all online,
Yeah.
you know. So, but
Yeah.
it's just one of those things, you got to find the balance.
Yeah. And I mean, we're also, we're not on top of On Fire. We've got our own stuff that we manage, people that we want to talk to, or things that we want to create, or just all sorts of things, just kind of pulling us in different directions. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
I,
find
I,
ourselves 2 hours later on the phone.
Yeah, I think about Isaac, how Isaac got to a point where everything that the Lord was giving him, it became too big to be in the area that he was at. That the people in Egypt's like, you got to go, because your family is becoming greater than even us as a freaking nation, and so he had to move on. And so, like, I think about that, like, Isaac outgrew where he was at, and I think that's what's happening with a lot of us right now. God keeps bringing opportunities around us that we feel like we can't say no to. Just for instance, like Jayke asked me to be his manager. Like, that's something that, like, I'll think like a year or two ago, because I've had people ask me similar questions like that, or to be a part of what they're doing. And I'm like, no, or I'll tell them I'll think about it, or I'll pray about it, and I don't even get back to them. But sometimes God brings something in your life that you're like, I can't say no to. And I don't know how we're going to balance it out. I don't know how it's going to work, but God's telling me to say yes to this. So, like, it's going to happen. So I got to do it, because I don't want to miss opportunities that God has for me. And so I just see everything that's happening with everybody from On Fire, all the guys. And I'm like, it's going to get to a place where everybody's outgrown where they were, and the growing pains suck. And, like, the birthing process sucks for the wife. And, when I was a kid, I had real bad growing pains in my ankles. And I remember, like, especially when I was my son's age, he was 5, I would, like, go to my mom, like, crying in the middle of the night because my legs were hurting so bad. And so, like, the growing pains suck, but on the other side of that, and you've grown and you can see the growth and you can see the maturity behind it. It's like, yeah, those pains were for a reason. Now I'm at this level that I wasn't at before, you know? Yeah. What do you think, Jayke?
I mean, when you talk about that, all I can think about is the situation I'm in right now, where God's telling me to move across the country. And he told me that before I even knew where I was going. And I had to tell him yes before I even knew where I was going. And it just goes into, like, trusting his process, trusting his plan, because I don't know, if you would have told me 2 years ago that I was going to tell God, okay, I'll go wherever you want me to go, and, like, start saving money for it. And, like, I was telling my family I was moving, and they're like, where are you going? And I'm like, I don't know. God's going to tell me. And they're looking at me like, even my mom, who's, like, super religious, super God oriented, she's looking at me like, what do you mean you don't know? And, but with that being said, I do think he's starting to reveal some answers. But you talked about growing out of that certain stage, that certain part of your life, or certain area you're in, and that's how I feel now, because I was praying for opportunity where I'm at, and I almost feel like he doesn't want me to have that here. Like, he's telling me right now, my purpose in this place right now is to be a light to the people around me, and to create more music. You know what I mean? Because I was calling churches, and even my church I go to, and, like, everybody was closing doors on me, closing doors, closing doors. And I think it has a little something to do with that Christian rap thing. People don't like that, but I feel like that's God's way of telling me, just trust me and do what I told you to do, and keep doing what you're doing, and those opportunities will come. Because I really got down on myself for a while, because I was like, you're telling me to do this, but nothing's happening, and I can't figure it out. I don't know what you want me to do, kind of deal. But I feel like he's really just given me a peace about it in the last, like, few weeks, about this isn't where you're meant to be. You're going to grow out of this. And it's the same with everybody. Maybe it's not specifically you're going to grow out of that area you live in and you're going to move, but maybe it's just you're gonna grow out of this specific area you're in. And like God Body has a song, what is it? I don't know, but it's TD Jakes talking about
Yeah. What
where
was once your
well, yeah, once your ceiling will then
yeah
become your floor, and then
yeah
you got to learn it all over again, and then you're gonna
hmm
hit another ceiling, and that'll become your floor, and you got to learn that all over again. And if you look at that at a biblical perspective, you know, he's gonna give you all those ceilings, and he's gonna teach you how to make them your floors. So
yeah. You said something too about like you didn't know where you were going, but you just told God yes. So like I've been thinking about that a lot too because like I said, I repeat myself with this, but I don't want to miss any opportunities that God has, and it's easy to do. Like if you look just for instance at the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus feeds 5,000, and then a chapter later, the feeding of the 4,000, the disciples are like, "How are we going to feed all these people?" It's like if I was Jesus, I'm like, "You remember last chapter where I just fed 5,000 people? You already forgot, you know?" And so I look at that and I'm like, yeah, they forgot about the miracle that he performed not too much, not too much earlier than this story. And so everything has a purpose and everything has a reason. And whenever I felt like God was telling me to start the podcast, I felt like it was because I was trying to find out more about Jesus, and I couldn't find a podcast, or I couldn't find something that resonated with me, because everything that I found was either old dudes talking that I'm like, I can't, these guys are boring. I can't listen to this. And like, this is not, I know this, like, there's got to be something better. And I couldn't find it. And so then I finally wrestled with God for a while. Long story short, started the podcast. And with in mind, I want to talk about who Jesus was. Well, I didn't actually do that until a couple months ago, right? Last month or whatever it was. And I told God yes that I was going to do the podcast then. That was 2022, and I just now did it a year and a half later. And so me finally telling God yes, then God gives me the opportunity in the midst of that to have other opportunities to speak places. Like he given me 3 opportunities: one to speak at a youth group and 2 at my church to speak. And in the middle of that was my wife telling me she's in on all this. So it's like I feel like God wouldn't have allowed those opportunities to happen had she not given her yes as well. Because like our not just our yes affects things down the road, but like the people around us too. So if my wife didn't say I'm in on this all the way, I think God would have given me opportunities to speak, but I feel like it would have been on down the road. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like all of those things happening, me giving God the yes to finally do the series on who is Jesus, coinciding with my wife saying, yeah, you know, I'm in on all of this too. I felt like God's like, okay, finally, y'all two are bought in. Here's you a couple opportunities to speak publicly like you want to do in front of, you know, I'm not going to lie. I want to speak in front of thousands and thousands of people one day for him. And so like but you can't get to that spot unless you speak in front of 5 people and 10 people and 15 people and 20 people. And, but it's just one of those things that we don't realize in the moment what all goes into giving God the yes. But when we do, he's like, okay, I've already got these things laid out for you. Now that you're saying yes, now just walk into them, you know, and he'll just lead and guide. And it's just like, it just fits like, yeah, this was supposed to be what happened all along. Like this was just, it just makes sense. You know, the things that seem crazy or like it wouldn't have happened in the past. It's just like, well, yeah, this is what was supposed to happen, you know?
Mhm. Yeah,
But
there's a building process, and like just to kind of add on to that, you know, I feel like even at the beginning,
no, you're good.
I feel like even just 2 years ago when I started the podcast, I don't think I could have brought to it what I can bring to it now, and that's going to just continue to happen over the years, right? Especially with this podcast that we're doing now. We're going to experience life. We're going to experience difficult things, and we're going to grow in our faith, and we're going to grow in our, you know, with our families and with ourselves, and we're going to change, and so I'm excited, you know, to see to see where we end up, you know, as we just continue to go with our different podcasts and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it is cool though. Like I'm feeling bad now because like before I came down here, Jake was live with Landry for a little bit, and so Landry he's got like the okay, I wanna he's got the bug now, so he was like, can I go when I told him I was coming down here to record, he was like, can I record with you? I was like, no, you need to step here. He was like, I won't make too much noise. I'm like, I know you. He doesn't at first, but once he gets warmed up, he doesn't stop. But yeah, but
Still got to get Landry on a track one day. I promised him.
he's already looking forward to it.
Is he?
Yeah.
Who is it that doesn't like Toby Mac? Somebody doesn't like Toby Mac. Is it you, Jake?
We got a bunch of haters in this group, bro.
It's not that I don't like.
Mac.
No, it's not that I don't like Toby Mac. It's that my mom knew I liked rap music, so she showed me Toby Mac, and I was like, "Mom, this is corny." And so now I just don't even really. I don't even like. I couldn't tell you it's a new Toby Mac song. I don't know. That old. What was the album with like the radio station on it?
Dude, I was just about to say that. Yeah, that was the first physical CD that I ever had. Portable Sounds.
Okay, so y'all know Dance Dance Revolution? There was a Christian version of that where you have like a mat and it was Christian music and you would dance on it. My mom got me that. And she would always put the Toby Mac song on. I was like, Mom, I do not want to listen to Toby Mac. So it's not that I don't like Toby Mac. I think it's just more of like my mom trying to force it on me. And so now I'm just like, I want nothing to do with that.
No, go ahead, Cody.
I was going to say I brought it up because that reminds me, younger Truett before he passed it.
Yeah.
Younger Truett coming on singing with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
I think I told Jake this. Like, I know I don't make music, but I want like the stuff that I do with podcasting. Like, I want it to kind of be like that, like how Toby had him on there. Like, because that's why I have Landry in the intro of the podcast where he's like, "Oh yeah, baby," But yeah, so I want him to be a part of it. I'm gonna have him do a live sometime with us when we do the music stuff. Maybe let him listen to a song or two, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's fun, especially as he's growing and you can understand him a little bit more now that when he talks. I want him to do more of those kind of things because like when I first started the podcast, I had him on a couple of times, and people reached out to me and they were like, if you ever feel like creating like letting your son create a show, I would let my kids watch it. And so I think that was one of the things that God allowed people to say to me, to show me, hey, you're going to make Christian content for kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, do it. So I feel like that was, you know what I'm saying? Like God confirming it to me. Like that's one of the things you need to do. But yeah, I almost got that what you're talking about, the little radio signal thing. I almost got that tatted. That I did because that was my, that was my.
What was that deep for you?
That was the first physical album I ever had.
Okay.
So it means a little bit to me.
You know what my first physical album is? You guys are gonna kick me off.
Probably either Justin Bieber, Jonas Brothers, or.
How young do you think I am? I was born in the 90s.
Yeah, you're the same age as my brother.
It was a Will Smith getting jiggy with it.
Oh, okay.
Nah. It's not that bad. He wasn't cussing you. It was my first
physical. It was the Encore Extended Edition by Eminem. My uncle got it for me.
Dang.
Yeah, you told me the other day you were an Eminem fan, and I think I disappointed you when I told you I didn't listen to Eminem. Every time, yeah. Well, no, when I recorded a podcast with them, but every time I tell people I rap, they look at me and they're like Eminem, and I'm like, no.
That's just the go-to. That's just the go-to. I personally, I was always a bigger fan of Mac Miller than Eminem.
I was a big G-Eazy fan for like 2 years. I had like some comb over. I used to call myself J-Eazy. I went to some of his concerts. Yeah, I was deep. I had like a T-shirt that said J-Eazy on the back. Yeah. I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it.
Yeah, I think I never listened to Jeezy. I don't even know, what does he sing?
Don't look him up.
Yeah, no.
You're not gonna like what you hear.
I'm trying to even picture who he is in my head. I can't even think about what he looks like. I'm
He's
thinking
got a
Macklemore.
song.
Does he look like Macklemore?
He looks like a
No,
grease.
he's more seasoned
Okay.
than Mac. Yeah, he looks like he's like from the show Grease, basically.
Yeah.
All black, slick hair.
The show Grease. You talking about the movie with John
Yeah,
Travolta?
yeah. He
Yeah.
looks like he has that kind of style. But
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, he's got bad music.
Does he?
yeah, I used to
Well,
like it, but now I'm just like, yeah, that was garbage. But
no, I don't. I don't. I used to listen, even though we're Christians. That's the thing that always is funny to me, how Christian people hate on like certain genres of music, but yet, like for instance, somebody will say you shouldn't listen to rap music; it's evil. But then country music talks about drinking and killing too. So like, because
or like
because I
the old rock music, like 70s, 80s rock, they're literally just
yeah, what
talking
are we
about
talking
drugs
about?
and women and yeah,
Yeah. So the same people that are like you shouldn't listen to that, they're listening to music that's just as bad. It's just packaged a different way.
That's why I
Mhm.
said earlier, like it goes back to people don't judge words. I think they judge sound more than anything.
Yeah.
They just don't
Yeah.
like the way it sounds. It's
Well,
Yeah.
like that heavy. Who was that guy in the live the other day? He submitted like he called it trap metal Christian music, and where he was like it
yeah, I
was
know what you're talking about. Tao.
really heavy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you listen to what he's saying, he's not saying anything bad, but as we know, some people didn't like it and they were saying things about it. But that just goes to show, like, people just listen to what it sounds like. They don't listen to the actual words.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, they don't.
because just because somebody likes a specific sound, like a heavy metal song, um, they just automatically assume that it's evil. And like, 'cause there's so many good artists that are using it to try to glorify God, and just because it sounds different than what you think it should, it's dismissed as evil. I don't know what they
Yeah.
listen to. They must just listen to like,
They're saints.
yeah, like
Don't talk about them,
op-
Cody, like that.
like opera, um,
contemporary Christian music.
I don't know,
film,
dude.
film.
They Christians are the biggest hindrance in the spreading of the gospel.
That's
For
deep.
real. Because this dude posted this the other day on Facebook of how I can't remember who it was. It was like, 1,000 Foot Crunch.
1,000 Foot Crutch. Yeah.
Is that
Say crunch.
I don't know the band. I know it was like Captain Crunch. I'm not a fan of that genre. I know I've heard of that band, 1,000 Foot Crutch,
Yeah.
but it's not them, but it's somebody like that. Apparently, they were supposed to do a show at a church, but the church canceled it because a bunch of members of the church looked them up and was like, we're not down with how they dress and stuff like that. And it was like a Christian band,
Was it?
and the guy, maybe that might have been it,
That was.
maybe,
Yeah.
but yeah, they had to cancel the show because of that. And I'm like, Christians are really like, I get it. People try to make sure that we're like what's the way I want to word it? Like they want to make sure that we're not sacrilegious or um I can't even think of really the word. Like they want to make sure that we're not taking the holiness out of scripture and out of God and out of Jesus. But it's just like at the same time, I saw somebody talking the other day about a trip they took to Israel. It was like one of the commentator type guys, I don't even remember who it was, but he was saying that when he was over there, the way that they do things is, it was Ruslan. It was Ruslan. He was talking about that, how he had went to Israel and how they're dancing over there and how they're always getting down like the Christians. And he's like, it's completely different over there than how it is for here as Christians. And that's just like, I don't know, maybe we could change some of that with what we do. I don't know.
I mean, I'm a living testimony that God will use the music that other Christians don't like to reach people. Because if I wouldn't have found Christian rap, I wouldn't have ever found that deeper relationship with God. So, and I mean, He's gonna use that with like the metal playlist they're putting together. There's gonna be people out there who don't connect with worship music or Christian rap or whatever. They're gonna find that and be like, "Oh, I like this," and then that'll maybe they go buy a Bible kind of deal. Like I'm a living testimony to that. So I think this conversation is always funny to me, I guess, because I'm just like, you guys have no idea what you're talking about because God used like I think Caleb Gordon, Aha Gazelle, Lecrae, those are like the three that I found, which opened like a whole whole box of a whole genre I didn't even know existed. And from there, I found a deeper relationship with God from that. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he uses whatever he can to get to people.
Dude, it was last year, I want to say it was. And what was really cool about this is like God gave me the opportunity to actually tell the person that their music helped me, because I was like really struggling. I was facing a lot of spiritual warfare. Like Satan was really coming at me. It's like the lowest that I've ever been. And to the point where when my wife asked me how I was feeling, I was like, I don't even want to really live anymore. Like I don't want to be alive anymore. Like that's how low I was getting. And I'd never experienced anxiety, never experienced depression before until this season. Actually, I was doing the video podcast as well, but for like 3 or 4 weeks, I didn't do the video. I just did audio, and I just talked about spiritual warfare. I don't remember the dates of it, but I just remember I went back and I was just talking about spiritual warfare. And I went to go get me and her some food one night after the kids were asleep, and I was like literally like praying, asking God, like I need some relief. Like what's going on right now? This is not cool, you know. And so I was like just praying, asking God for help, and He helped me in that moment. Like He took it away. Like I could feel almost like a weight being taken off my shoulders. But at the same time, as that was going on, I told God, I'm like, I'm gonna start listening to some music right now because I need something to help me, you know. And so I put my earbuds in and I just hit shuffle on my phone, and the first song that played was Marty from Social Season. He was saying, "I'm about to level up." And it took me a second. He said it a couple times, and then I was like, "Oh, that's what's going on right now. Like I'm leveling up. Satan doesn't want me to level up. He wants me just to go ahead and end it right now. But God is allowing me through everything that I'm doing to get to a new level that I never experienced before. And at each new level, you're going to experience new devils." And so I was like, "Okay, that's what this is. I'm leveling up." And so, um, you know, for God to use that. And that's a rap song for anybody that doesn't know who Marty is or that song. And so it was cool because I was blessed to have Marty on the podcast, and I was able to tell him that story. And I was like, you know, that song really helped me in a moment that was very dark, you know, in my life. So there's so much power inside of music that we don't need to downplay just because it's not the flavor that we like, you know? So, but anyway.
And that was a form of worship right there. That's what I was
Mm-hmm.
getting to earlier, is like everyone's worship is different.
Yeah.
Just because your worship doesn't look like, or your worship looks different than the next person, that doesn't mean they're not worshiping. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm looking forward to as we move on to through these episodes of this podcast, is like just where the conversation is going to go. Because like we didn't have a plan before we hit record. We were like, does anybody have any stories, anything they want to talk about? And then we hit record, and then you know you never know where it's going to go. So that's what I'm really excited about all these episodes that we do moving on, whether I'm on them or not, or whether Jake's on them or not, or Cody or whoever, you know, 2 or 3 guys that are on each week. Hopefully it's something that I feel like everybody in this is aligned with that same vision of we're trying to do things from a place of being spirit led. And when you go into it, I think this conversation was at least for, you know, one person. So whoever's listening to this, if this was for you, you know, we're thankful that God would allow us to speak life into whatever situation you're going through right now. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about moving forward. Y'all got anything else y'all want to talk about?
Not that I can think of. I think most of the
yeah,
stuff
not really, man.
Good to go.
I gotta go cook dinner.
I feel you. Let's see, what time even is it? At 3:30? What y'all on the senior citizen schedule? Eating
No,
dinner at,
it's 2:30 here actually. But
so even earlier. That's even worse.
no, I'm grilling, so I gotta go buy
Oh
some
yeah. I got
charcoal.
you.
I gotta light it. I gotta let it go for 30 minutes. You know, it's gonna be a process.
So obviously this episode will be out after Christmas. So what's something that y'all got for your wives?
So I'll let. So we agreed to not do Christmas gifts this year because this year's a
Okay.
little different. Like we just had a kid and we're
Yeah.
moving in the summer. But I will say our anniversary was November 24th, so a couple weeks ago. And I got her. It was funny because when she opened it, she was like, you know that meme or that video of that kid who opens the gift and he's like, an avocado. Thanks. That's literally what she looked like because she opened it and it's this rose. It's a real rose that they preserve somehow and make it last for like 2 or 3 years. And she's just looking at it like, thanks. And I was like, no, turn it.
Oh
And there's like
no.
there's a little knob. And when you turn it, it was a necklace and it has like 2 hearts in it with all your names engraved on
Mm,
it. But you should have seen her face. She was like, this is what you waited 2 weeks in the mail for. I was like,
man.
yeah.
Yeah.
But she
Dude, that's
loves it.
that kind of stuff too, like the stuff that we feel like, oh, they're gonna love this. Then they look at it like, why would you even get me this? Because like a couple years ago, I bought Kelly this little wooden camera, like it's a fake camera, and it just looks like a. Obviously, it's because it's wooden, but it's just supposed to be like a little display, and you slide the back, and there's a camera roll in there, and you pull it out, and there's pictures of our family in it.
Mm.
And so I was like, this is going to be deep. She's going to love it. I'm going to get all kind of brownie points for this. And then she opens it. She's like, okay, what's the next? I'm like, I put my heart and soul into this, and,
I
but if,
uploaded 10 pictures for this.
yeah, yeah, but, but it was, she still has it somewhere probably in the garage or under our bed or something. But, there was, if you're talking about not doing gifts, so like we're married men here. I'm not going to get too deep into this topic, but different we have different blessings inside of marriage that you're not supposed to partake in outside of marriage, if you catch my drift. So one thing that I ask Kelly for every year is just a coupon book, and it's just like has like different little things on there, you know what I'm saying? So like if
You're
y'all
crazy.
going the free route, that's something. If you want to take that,
You're
you can
crazy.
have. What you mean?
You're just crazy.
I mean, it's a blessing inside of marriage. There ain't nothing wrong with it. But no, but I bought her a. Do y'all know anime at all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Y'all know Ponyo?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a
I know, like,
little. I don't know anything about it. When we first got together, she was wanting to watch. She was like, "You got to watch Ponyo," and so we watched it. And it's like this girl who turns into a fish, but then she like turns back and forth from a fish to a human. And so I had
Like a
went to
mermaid.
something. So I had went. I don't remember any of the movie other than that. But anyway, I bought her a. Do y'all have Lunchbox wherever y'all live?
mm-mm.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's it. Y'all
Yeah,
have
we
that?
have it. Oh, my bad, Cody.
No,
Yeah,
we're
Yeah.
good.
We have a
y'all have a
lunchbox at the mall. Yeah.
yeah. So I had went there and they had this pretty dope like a Ponyo sweatshirt, and it's got like multicolored and stuff on there. It's kind of cool. Kind of looks a little retro a little bit. So I got that for her, along with some other things, but that one was more just because it wasn't like we give each other a list of things that we would be appreciative of every year, hence the coupon book. But that's what I told her. I'm like, that kind of stuff is free. You ain't gotta put any money out for that. You know what I'm saying? Like save some money. And but so she gave me a list of things that she wanted. A coupon book was not one of the things she wanted, but also obviously that sweatshirt wasn't on there either. So I went off the list. So hopefully she'll like it when she sees it. Obviously, she's already had it for a couple months, probably whenever this comes out, but it is what it is. What about you, Cody?
I told her one thing we are gonna buy is like one of those picture frames where you can upload like 1,000 pictures and it just cycles through them. And when I told her I wanted that, she was like, "You want that? You want like a sentimental picture frame?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I want it. It's gonna go right here. I'm gonna put it right here." So
You can get that on your TV too,
really,
because like our screensaver for our TV is just like cycling pictures of our family and kids.
hmm.
Yeah,
Giant picture frame.
yeah. Well, we're not uptown like you, Cody. We have a little bitty cracker box TV. We ain't got no big screen, so
The
we
tube still.
the tube. Yeah, yeah,
700
the
count
tube.
TV.
I was given a
But
60 when I moved to the moving company. A guy gave me a 65-inch smart TV for free as a tip.
dang.
So it's in my living room.
Mm-mm.
No, but we already gave each other our presents.
Oh yeah,
We want to watch them open their presents. Well,
I
what?
like that.
And because we're weak, we gave in to giving each other gifts that we got. But I got a bread maker, the magnetic calendars that you put on the fridge, a new skillet. What else did I get you?
Oh, she's in there.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of stuff, but she got me some pretty cool stuff. She got me that camera. I know you guys talked
Yeah,
about
that's
the camera.
dope. Yeah, I always try to every year. I'm like a couple days ago. I guess last week it was 3 weeks till Christmas, right? Well, Monday, and I'm like, I went up to her and I like gave her a hug after work, and I'm like, you don't forget, our tradition every year, 3 weeks before Christmas, everybody opens one present, and we don't do that, But she's like, we don't do that, because every year I always try to get her to open something earlier, but she never goes for it. She's like, I want to do it on Christmas Day. But so this weekend I'll be like, hey, 2 weeks till Christmas. Don't forget, we always open a present 2 weeks before Christmas. She's like, we don't do that. But anyway, yeah. So if y'all don't have anything else, I guess we'll go ahead and get out of here. But appreciate you guys taking the time. I know we're not big fans of coming on Saturday, but it is what it is. Thanks, Cody, for coming on, taking some time away from your family. You too, Jake. Yeah, man. All right. Well, Lord willing, we'll be back same time next week. God bless you guys. Have a safe week.
Sir.
Yep.
On fire, got a lot to say.